Here we're going to look at a couple systems problems from the classwork. Let's do one graphing one, so this third one. So in order to solve by graphing, we first need y equals with both the equations. So with the top equation, 4x plus y equals 2, we solve by subtracting 4x from both sides, and we get y equals negative 4x plus 2. That means that the y-intercept is at 2, so we start with a point at 2. The slope is negative 4 over 1, so from that point we go down 4 and over 1. And then we're going to draw a line connecting those 2 points. And then the second line is x minus y equals 3. Solve that, subtract x from both sides. Negative y equals negative x plus 3. Negative y really means negative 1y, so we need to divide every term by negative 1. We get y equals x minus 3, because negative 1x divided by negative 1 is just 1. So our slope is 1 over 1. This line we start at negative 3 and then go up 1 over 1 from negative 3. So we end up with a line sort of like this. And our lines intersect at this point, which gives a solution of that intersection at 1, negative 2. Okay, now substitution example number 3. To solve by substitution, we want to look for the loneliest variable, or the one without numbers in front of it. Here that is x. And then we solve for that number, or that variable in that equation. So x plus 7y equals 0. When we solve for x, we'd subtract 7y from both sides and get x equals negative 7y plus 0. Which we can just write as negative 7y. Okay, now we want to plug in that equation into our second equation instead of x. So 2x minus 8y equals 22. But now instead of x, we're going to write this whole equation. So I'm going to leave a gap where x is, rewrite negative 8y equals 22, and in that gap I'm going to write negative 7y, since that's what x is equal to. And then we want to solve this equation. So multiply the 2 to negative 7, negative 14y minus 8y equals 22. Combine like terms with the negative 14 and the negative 8 to get negative 22y equals 22. Divide both sides by negative 22, and we get y equals 22 divided by negative 22 is negative 1. That's the first part of our answer. To get the second part, we're now going to plug y equals negative 1 into this equation for x. So we have x equals negative 7y, but instead of y, we now write negative 1. So x is negative 7 times negative 1, which is positive 7. So our solution to this system is 7, negative 1. Okay, number 4 is an elimination example. To solve by elimination, we want to try to get a variable to line up in these two equations with the same number, but one is positive, one is negative. So looking at these equations, the easiest spot to line up would be the x's, because we have 8 and negative 16. We could make those line up at 16 by multiplying the top equation by 2. If we multiply the top equation by 2, we get 16x minus 12y equals negative 40. And then I'm just going to rewrite the bottom equation. Negative 16x plus 7y equals 30. Now that we have x's lined up, we just add these two equations together. When we do that, 16x minus 16x is 0, so those get eliminated. Negative 12y plus 7y is negative 5y. And then negative 40, writing those, negative 40 plus 30 is negative 10. And then we solve this resulting equation. So divide both sides by negative 5. We get y equals positive 2. And now we just need to find x. And to find x, we can use any of the original equations. So let's just use the top one. 8x minus 6y equals negative 20. And we're going to plug in this y equals 2 for y in this equation. That would give us 8x minus 6 times 2 equals negative 20. And then we solve. 8x minus 6 times 2 is 12 equals negative 20. Add 12 to both sides, and we get 8x equals negative 8. Divide by 8 on both sides, and we get x equals negative 1. So the solution is negative 1, 2.